Good afternoon, Tom. I understand you have some exciting information for us today. Can't wait to hear it.
Yes, I do, Ann. And good afternoon. Ever wonder about your medication for diabetes? And yes, this is Today with Tom live. And we are actually here in the hot summertime in Raleigh, North Carolina. And actually, it's really hot today, in the 90s, I think. And well, everybody made it through July the 4th. We're now on Tuesday, the next work day, so everybody's at work. And we're going to be talking about something that people really have a proficiency of actually having now. It's not something that you want to have, but it is something that a lot of Americans and people all around the world have as far as a disease. Later on this afternoon, and that's of course diabetes. Later on this afternoon, we're going to be talking on our second day about osteoporosis, and we're going to talk today about some of the vitamins and nutrients that play a role besides calcium in osteoporosis prevention and the roles that they have. But boy, have we got a loaded subject right now. Diabetes, oh my goodness. And that is actually a very big subject. It's a subject that most people don't really know everything about, and it's something that you need to know, particularly about the medications that you take. So what the heck is diabetes? Well, it's actually revolving around insulin, and insulin is a hormone. It's actually produced in the body, in the pancreas, and it plays a major role in metabolism. So glucose is something that actually breaks down in the body, and it's a form of sugar that enters the bloodstream. When glucose enters the bloodstream with the help of insulin, cells throughout the body absorb glucose and use it for energy. So it's something we've got to have. But when blood glucose levels rise after a meal, the pancreas releases insulin into the bloodstream, and the insulin and glucose then travel to the cells throughout the body, because insulin helps in muscle, fat, and liver cells absorption of the glucose into the bloodstream. That lowers the blood glucose levels. But insulin stimulates the liver and muscle tissue to store excess glucose. Now here's where we run into a problem, because actually that stored form of glucose is called glycogen. Insulin also lowers blood glucose levels by reducing the glucose production in the liver. Now in a healthy person, these functions allow blood glucose and insulin levels to remain at a normal or balanced amount. Okay, but that's not the way things happen in life. It's a little bit more complicated, because here's where a term insulin resistance comes into play. All right, insulin resistance is a condition in which the body produces insulin, but it doesn't use it wisely or effectively. When people have insulin resistance, glucose builds up in the blood instead of being absorbed by the cells. So that's what we have as far as type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. So when you have pre-diabetes, that's when we have insulin resistance. And this condition goes on for a long time in people's bodies. It can be for years, and you may not know that you even have a insulin resistant effect. But it's when you start to go downhill as far as disorders go. It has some serious health effects. And what happens with insulin resistance? All right, in insulin resistance, the muscle, fat, and liver cells do not respond properly to insulin's activity, and therefore do not easily absorb glucose from the bloodstream. So here's where the beta cells in the pancreas actually cannot keep up with the increased demand for insulin. As long as beta cells are able to produce enough insulin to overcome the insulin resistance, blood glucose actually goes on A-OK. But when it doesn't go on A-OK, then that's when we get into insulin resistance that's bad for the body. All right, excess weight. What contributes to this insulin resistance? Excess weight. The body just flat out produces obesity at that point. You get excess fat around the waist, which is really one of the primary effects of insulin resistance. Scientists believe that fat tissue functions solely for energy storage. So you get the body fat around the waist, you start getting into the insulin resistance, and you start building up excess glucose in the body. That's when we have to take drugs to lower those levels. And it's just really when the body cannot or is unable to produce the amount of insulin that it needs to convert food into energy, and it's when it's unable to actually use this insulin properly. So you've got situations in which you've got blood glucose levels that go up higher. The body gets resistant to these cells as a result of the insulin, and we just get into a unbelievably bad situation. All right, that's when drugs enter the scene. So you've got a medication like metformin, and metformin is called glucophage, and it actually, you take it twice a day with breakfast and with the evening meal. What it does, what glucophage does to the body is actually it decreases the amount of glucose released from the liver. All right, so you really have a situation in which you're taking a medication that's going to lower the amounts of glucose released by the liver. But here's the side effects. All right, you take it twice a day, you got bloating, gas, diarrhea. That's one of the most important aspects of having to take glucophage. You have to take, and particularly that occurs during the first few weeks of your starting that medication, the glucophage or metformin. You have to take it with food to minimize these symptoms. It's not likely to cause low blood glucose. It just doesn't have that side effect. In rare cases, you get a buildup of lactic acidosis, which occurs in people who have problems with their kidney or liver functions. So that's one drug. All right, now we're going into a different class of drugs, and this is the Amaryl or Diabetic, glyburide, and glipizide and glycinase type medications. You take this medication once or twice a day. What it does, and it's the Amaryl, it's the glyburide, it's the glipizide, those are different medications, and it's the micronized glyburide glycinase preparation. It stimulates here the liver to release more insulin, both right after a meal and then over several hours. And the side effects here are possibly low blood sugar, low blood glucose, occasionally skin rashes, irritability, and upset stomach. Now, because these medications can cause low blood glucose, you can have, it always you always need to carry a source of carbohydrate with you, like a candy bar or some type of way to stimulate the body from having the actual, you need a food with you, something that will bring the glucose levels back up in an emergency situation. So you have to really be careful in following your food plan and activity program. You have to call your practitioner if you run into problems with actually having problems with your low blood sugar, or if you are not following directions. Now, the next class of drugs that we're going to talk about are the the precose or the alpha glucoside inhibitors. And this is like glycid. That's not being used a whole lot. Precose, that's not being used a whole lot. But you take this medication with the first bite of your meal, and if you're not eating, you don't take it. It slows down the absorption of the carbohydrate into your bloodstream after eating. And of course, this medication can cause gas, diarrhea, upset stomach, abdominal pain. You have to take this with the meal and it limits the actual rise in the blood glucose that can occur after meals. Then you've got the bile acid sequence, that you take once or twice a day with a meal, and actually that medication and that's a powder, it will bind up the medications, and it can have some side effects from that standpoint of constipation and diarrhea, nausea, gas, heartburn. A lot of people have problems with this medication because it does have to be mixed, and it has to be responded with accordingly if you are having problems. And thank you, April, for coming in today. The bottom line is, you've got medications, you've got a condition that changes the whole schematics of the body. You have a condition also that is very, very ongoing. Diabetes is not something that you play around with. Diabetes is a whole new life for the individual. And once you get into that situation, you've got to be ever so careful with your daily activities, with your eating habits, with all of the things that go along with your actual, if you gain weight, that's a real negative. And of course, you can lose too much weight too. You've got to eat accordingly, regularly. And if you skip meals, you're going to run into problems. If you don't take care of yourself and gain weight, you're going to run into severe problems. It's a condition that you don't want to ever get into. But there are people who have diabetes and they keep it well under control. You need the monitoring of the blood glucose levels always, 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 because the medication is not there to actually stop the diabetes. The medication is there to help you as you're responding to the problems that diabetes brings to you. Remember, the eyes, the heart, the kidneys, and the feet are the conditions that diabetes worsen. And they will worsen it almost overnight if you don't take care of yourselves. And diabetes complicates every other type of illness that you have in your entire life. If you have cardiovascular disease, it absolutely, completely builds that up and makes that much, much more complicated. Circulatory issues, it complicates circulation. That's why you lose toes, you lose feet, you lose entire legs. That's due to the complications of the diabetes. So, the moral of the story is diabetes is a very awful disease that you have to be ever so careful, ever so taking care of yourself without taking care of yourself, diabetes can be a awful killer. Now, that's our short little presentation today with the Today with Tom program. 6:15 tonight, we've got part 2 of our 5-part series osteoporosis prevention program. Osteoporosis, the 12th leading cause of death in the United States. I mean, what can you say? An awful, awful, awful illness, a disease that can cause major problems with individuals. We're going to talk about today, the second part of it, all the nutrients that go into complementing the calcium. We know calcium well, but we don't know all the other trace minerals. It's not just a one mineral condition. It's a multiple area that you need to know all the answers. So that's why we're here. Tom Jones, pharmacist, that will be on at 6:15 tonight. Today with Tom is what we just presented. We love being here. I want you to actually opt in to our site. I want you to let us know how you enjoy our programs. I want you to let us know what topics you are interested in learning, and we will respond. We will respond. We're here for you. We're here to give you information that you don't regularly have available, and we're here to educate, to coach, and to consult with you to go over all the aspects about your life. Developing a health and wellness program is a wonderful way to help you grow in this world and actually be healthier. Our goal is, at the end of the day, that you are healthy, healthy, healthy. And if we want to help one person in that aspect, we are so proud, and we're tickled pink to be here at Facebook Live, Tom Jones Pharmacist, and Today with Tom. And Ann, have you got anything to say?
Just bye-bye.
All righty. We'll see you at 6:15 tonight. Good night. Bye.